Are we waiting on the sheriff, right?
No. If you could just leave the...
Oh, we're not?
on the
Is she
show
here?
there.
Is she not? Okay, so we ready to roll? Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Attorney General Dave Sunday, and I'm joined today by our law enforcement partners to announce the dismantling of a high-level fentanyl trafficking organization based here in Philadelphia. Fentanyl continues to be an easily obtainable and highly profitable product of choice for predatory traffickers. And unfortunately, fentanyl continues to be a scourge on communities all across the Commonwealth and our country. As you know, this is not our first high-level fentanyl bust, and it definitely will not be our last, but it is very significant, as this trafficking operation and its dismantling has impact statewide throughout Pennsylvania. We're here in Northeast Philadelphia today because that is where the operation was based. But our collaborative investigation shows that large amounts of fentanyl was trafficked here and was being moved across the state to Western Pennsylvania on a regular basis. What you see on the table here is what was seized this week, on Wednesday, in a collaborative search warrant and arrest operation in Northeast Philadelphia. What you're looking at over here is about $2 million worth of fentanyl. This is about 2.5 million doses of fentanyl. Each dose had the potential to kill. And again, this is what we took off the streets from just 2 homes in a single afternoon. We seized additional large quantities of fentanyl throughout this investigation. I mentioned collaboration. You can see that here too. I'd like you to look at our partners with me today, with the many, and they've all joined us in all of these operations, and in particular, this and the takedown would not be possible without their teamwork and support. So joining with me today are representatives of the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Philadelphia Police Department, the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, HIDA, the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office, and members of the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. And you will hear from some of these partners. Before I get to the defendants and their charges, I'll start with how this all came together. It began with 2 separate investigations in different parts of the state. Along with our partners, we became aware of large amounts of fentanyl being moved in and around the Commonwealth with supplier bases in Northeast Philadelphia, specifically at addresses on Wellington Street and Montague Street. 3145 Wellington Street was the main hub of this trafficking operation. And the poster board, if you take a look at it, it's got a map on there that indicates that. The bulk of the bagging, packaging, and stamping was done at the Wellington Street home. Earlier this month, we learned that Wellington Street was serving as a supplier for the Montague Street operation, as we watched individuals from the 2 locations meeting with one another with large quantities of fentanyl. On Wednesday, all of the partners here were involved in search warrants and arrest operations in both homes. The operations were fruitful and effectively ended this trafficking operation. At Wellington Street, our timing could not have been better, because when agents made entry into that home, this fentanyl packaging operation was actually in full swing. And you can see what it looked like on the board with pictures. This is a fentanyl bagging house. It's much like an assembly line in a factory. Everyone has their roles. I mentioned this is an upper-level trafficking operation, and how do we know that? Well, the large amount of fentanyl that was seized in a single afternoon, it's right here on the table. That's more than 5 kilos of fentanyl, about 2.5 million doses, and as I said, worth around $2 million. About half of it was bulk fentanyl. The other half was already packaged and ready to hit the street. There was nearly 100,000 packets of fentanyl, in addition to the bulk fentanyl seized as well. Also significant, we found at the Wellington home more than 100 stamps. As you may know, drug dealers stamp or brand their products, so the customers know where it came from, and they also then know how to get more of the same product. More than 100 stamps. This shows the magnitude of this operation. I want to emphasize that this investigation remains ongoing. But as of today, along with the U.S. Attorney's Office, we filed charges on 3 individuals, and we can provide these names and the spellings afterwards. but those charged are Johan Manuel Almonte Ortiz, Arjadis Noel de la Cruz Jerez, and Domingo Cedeno Pimentel. They are charged with felony drug trafficking, conspiracy, and related charges. They were taken into custody and arraigned in the last day or so, and we sought high bail amounts at those arraignment hearings. I want to always say that these individuals are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. I said at the beginning of this that this is not our first takedown of high-level fentanyl traffickers, and it will not be our last. I can make that commitment with confidence because of the fine partners that are working with us here today. We will all keep working together towards a common goal, ridding our communities of predatory traffickers and removing poisons from our neighborhood. We have done a tremendous amount here in Pennsylvania to decrease overdoses all throughout the state. It is absolutely crucial for people to remember that what you cannot do is take your foot off the gas. These drugs are so deadly, they at any point can kill someone, and the minute law enforcement would stop being aggressive and doing our job is when those poisons will continue to grow in ways that none of us would ever want to see. I can tell you, and I say this all the time, as a prosecutor, some of the absolute most tragic conversations that I ever had were with parents who over the years have slowly watched their children ebb away into addiction and then ultimately, unfortunately, lead to a place of death. And that's what we are fighting to stop. I also always want to take a minute to thank all of our partners that worked on this, and in particular, the individuals that you don't see standing here today. We have the luxury and the joy of standing here and sharing with you amazing outcomes from cases. But there are many people that actually get the job done every day that can't stand out here with us. Those are the agents, the analysts, the officers, the troopers, the attorneys who come to work every day with that same mission. They all make sacrifices and they face potential danger to stop traffickers like these individuals. And I, for one, not only as the Attorney General, but as a citizen and a father, thank them every single day. I thank them for their fine work, and their dedication does not go unnoticed. That being said, at this point, I would like to invite to the podium Derek Hines, the First Assistant United States Attorney, who is a good friend of ours and works for the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, David Metcalf, who has been outstanding. He's been an outstanding partner and has worked very closely with the Attorney General's office and our local law enforcement partners to keep our communities safe. There.
Thank you. Good morning. As Dave said, I am First Assistant U.S. Attorney Derek Hines. I want to start by, on behalf of United States Attorney David Metcalf, thanking Attorney General Dave Sunday, his dedicated professionals at the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office for the collaboration that they have developed with our office in cases just like this one. It is that support that we provide to our state, local, and federal partners that helps enable successful results, and this is a perfect example of that. At this time, the investigation is ongoing. To date, one defendant has been charged federally, and I wish to talk about that case at this time. Yesterday, our office, the United States Attorney's Office, filed a criminal complaint against Arjadis Noel de la Cruz Jerez with distribution of fentanyl. Jerez is 33 years old. He is a resident of Philadelphia, but he is here from the Dominican Republic. He made an initial appearance in federal court yesterday. He is temporarily detained pending his detention hearing on Monday of next week, in which the United States will seek his continued detention. As alleged in our filing, Jerez sold bricks of fentanyl and xylazine here in Philadelphia and throughout the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. He also did so knowing that those bricks of deadly narcotics will be distributed not only here, but in Pittsburgh and in the Western District of Pennsylvania. So as you can see, this is a cross-state significant drug network, but it also has ties to the border. Indeed, as alleged in the complaint, Jerez sold bricks of fentanyl that were stamped with the words Border King. And as I said, our investigation is ongoing. We anticipate we will seek a further indictment against Jerez in the coming weeks. This takedown is one of many that demonstrates the firm commitment of United States Attorney David Metcalf to work really close hand in hand with the law enforcement partners you see here to tackle the drug epidemic that we see in our district. The Homeland Security Task Force was developed just for cases like this one, to bring together our state, local, and federal partners as an investigation develops. At the outset, our office worked in a support role, supporting our partners here, and now, as the investigation grew, as is often the case with the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office's good work, we are now partnering in these prosecutions, and we have brought one in our office with possibly more to follow. Our office is committed to holding perpetrators accountable for the harm they've caused to our Commonwealth. These drug traffickers leave behind them a wake of misery and death. So it's important to us to get these drugs off the street, out of the bag houses, before they hit the streets. And also, it's further important to stop the flow of deadly drugs coming over the border from illegal immigrants and others who are destined to sell those drugs on the streets here in Philadelphia. So I want to thank, on behalf of U.S. Attorney David Metcalf, all of our partners here, particularly Attorney General Dave Sunday, and I want to introduce the acting special agent in charge of the Homeland Security Investigations, that is Nathan Abel.
Thank you, Derek. So, good morning. My name is Nathan Abel. I'm the acting special agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations here in Philadelphia. Thank you for joining us this morning to discuss this great, now Homeland Security Task Force designated investigation, which produced these incredible results targeting fentanyl traffickers in the area. With the support of the newly established HSTF, task force groups in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh recently launched multiple investigations focusing on several Dominican narco-trafficking organizations. HSI special agents, working side by side with our federal, state, and local partners, helped drive this investigation from initial intelligence to the outstanding results you see here today. Results like these are only possible through the level of collaboration that you see in this investigation and the team that you see before you. This investigation is a clear example of what the HSTF was created to do and of HSI's role within it. Integrating intelligence, sharing information across jurisdictions, and bringing a unified response to criminal organizations and fentanyl trafficking networks. To the criminal organizations pushing fentanyl into our neighborhoods, there is no safe harbor in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, or in our region. Together with our federal, state, and local partners, HSI will relentlessly pursue those who traffic these poisons into our communities. Thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce Deputy Commissioner Frank Venor from the Philadelphia Police Department.
Good morning. As you heard, my name is Deputy Commissioner Frank Venor. I am the Deputy Commissioner of Investigations for the Philadelphia Police Department. On behalf of Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel and the men and women of the Philadelphia Police Department, I want to thank Attorney General Dave Sunday and all of our law enforcement partners for the continued collaboration and leadership. What you are seeing here today is the result of a long-term coordinated investigation into a violent drug trafficking organization operating throughout Philadelphia and extending into New Jersey and other areas of Pennsylvania. These cases are complex, they take time, and they require a sustained focus. Not to repeat what the Attorney General and was already spoken about with the investigation, but this investigation involved millions of dollars in narcotics and a very sophisticated distribution operation, which was at multiple locations, being operated by multiple people, and that was all broken up. And I just want to take a moment to recognize the work of the Narcotics Bureau, Intensive Drug Investigation Squad, and all of our partnering agencies who dedicated patience and professionalism to help drive this investigation forward. This kind of work doesn't happen overnight. It is built through surveillance, it's built through intelligence gathering, evidence gathering, and its coordination through federal, state, and local law enforcement. The investigation was a clear example of partnerships matter. These organizations don't operate in one neighborhood, not even in one state, and it takes a unified approach to effectively disrupt them. In Philadelphia, this effort remains part of our broader public safety strategy under Mayor Parker's leadership, focused on prevention, intervention, and enforcement. Enforcement remains a critical component, especially when targeting organizations responsible for distribution of fentanyl and fueling the violence and addiction in our communities. But beyond the arrest and the seizures, the work is about lasting impact, providing quality of life, restoring the stability of our neighborhoods, and ensuring the residents feel different in our communities. We are grateful for the continued partnership with our Attorney General's office and all agencies involved, and this remains a shared mission, and we remain committed to doing this work. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for covering this today. With the understanding that this is an ongoing investigation and there's certain things obviously that can't be discussed, does anyone have any questions? Yes?
So one, can you, just for all the cameras,
Yep.
for all of us, can you say all their names and can you spell them all out? Because
Sure.
you have producers that need to, write these out too.
Okay.
Also, just a paper that you can hand out?
Do the region. You want to do it?
Yeah, we want the, if you can say the names too.
Okay.
We need the names and how you say them too.
If there's paperwork, we can just grab it.
Okay. We'll do it. When we're done, we'll give you the names and we have them. Yep. Okay.
Questions?
I have so many, I'm sorry. Okay, can you quantify this seizure as, in comparison to some others that you've had? I mean, $2 million, 2 million pounds is significant, but it is in line. Can you quantify that?
Sure. What I can tell you is this. So in 2025, the Office of Attorney General, working with our partners, removed over 56 million doses of fentanyl from the streets in Pennsylvania. And then, so that was during the course of the year. And so that might help frame it out a little bit. Yeah, but this is, obviously this is unbelievable. This is, at this point, yes.
Okay.
So-
I see one gun over there. Only one gun from that house? Like, you guys only got one gun from these guys?
That's correct.
Where are their guns?
Well,
No?
they haven't told us, so.
And that's not a lot of cash. How are they, what's the transfer of money? Is it Venmo? Is it, there's just like a little piece of, it's not a wad of cash.
Sure.
Where's all the money?
Hi, good morning. One of the things about narcotics work is there's very clear and intentional segregation of duties, okay? The drugs and the money are never in the same place, okay? And you asked a really good question about the gun. One of the absolute worst things that a drug dealer can do in a packaging house is have a gun, okay? Traditionally, there is no danger to a street-level drug trafficker, okay, in a bagging house. The biggest danger would come from a rival drug trafficking organization that would try to go into that house and rob them of their supply. But recognizing the significant amount of fentanyl, one of the worst things, again, let me repeat this, a drug trafficker could do is have a firearm next to that kilogram of fentanyl. So I would tell you, to answer your question, and it's a very reasonable question, would be to have those two things separated. Any of the money, would it be done by way of Venmo? No, this is a cash business. Particularly at a higher level organization, there would be money, there would be money laundering activities, but we wouldn't see that at a house like was evidenced here.
And only there were 3 people in that house, Ortiz and Jerez and Pimentel?
Correct.
No bouncer, no, are you going after the runners as well? These are guys are the packers.
Correct. This is an organization. Okay, those people that were in that house are in there specifically for the purpose of taking. one of those kilos and breaking it down into this. They would be there for days. Okay, that's an extremely tedious process. Okay, is there security often in mill houses? Yes, there is. Okay, at the time that we hit it, no, those were the people that were in the house. But again, that's an extremely tedious process, and they may have been in there for days breaking those kilos up.
So I don't know, I'm sorry for,
It's okay.
for taking like
No.
all these questions, but just trying to understand, and for our viewers to understand, we're thinking cartel, but there are other cartels operating. So you guys grabbed these three guys who are packers, but how quickly does somebody else slip in to feed the demand in Kensington and everywhere else?
That's a very good question, and to be quite honest with you, that can happen pretty quickly. Okay, and certainly where there's a vacuum, other people and other drug traffickers are going to try to take advantage of it, and that's why it's so insidious to us. Okay, but that being said, even we in law enforcement, whether it's federal, state, or local, don't do our jobs and pursue cases just because we think that void's going to be filled. There's extreme value in doing cases like this. Every one of those, a kilogram of fentanyl or a kilogram of cocaine, okay, that weighs 2.2 pounds, okay, 1,000 grams, okay? It doesn't look like a whole lot, but just by way of reference, when you go to a diner and your standard sugar packet, okay, that's 4 grams, okay? A penny, 2.5 grams, all right? A paper clip is basically a little bit under a gram, okay? Each one of these bags that we have here, and again, there are no standards in drug trafficking. There is no universal standard in when it comes to a bag, but each one of those bags contains anywhere between 1/10 and 5/10 of 1 gram, okay? All right, so that kilogram that's seized by everybody up here today can yield anywhere between 50,000 bags on the extreme low end and up to 1 million bags on the high end, okay? So those guys right there, if we're talking 7 keys were seized in total, and that's the kilogram amounts as well as the bags, we're talking that a seizure of, and again, on the extremely liberal amount, that's 7 million bags of fentanyl that didn't hit the streets of Philadelphia.
All right, I'm going another question.
Go for it.
Bigger here. So, okay, that's it. Sorry, because I know she probably has some. So the cartel is watching this. They're watching this news conference. It's going out. Somebody else is going to, like, I'm sure you're thinking that far ahead. Yes?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
somebody else is ready to slide in because you took this off the streets.
Correct. Yeah. Whether or not the cartel's watching this, I really can't say. It's again, that's with any drug case, there's always a void. But that being said, okay, we are out there. We did jobs yesterday. We have jobs planned for next week. We have cooperators all throughout the city, all throughout the state, and all throughout the country. Okay, we still do this, but yes, drug trafficking is a fluid business, and it's a conspiracy by its very nature. Okay, if we take cocaine, if you take heroin, drugs like cocaine and heroin don't grow in Philadelphia. They don't. Okay, they get grown and cultivated in other parts of the world. So you're right. Every drug case, by its very nature, is a conspiracy. But that being said, we're still attacking it from whatever level is most accessible to us. And here's a really good example of the amount of drugs that were seized in Mayfair. That's 10 minutes from this office.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, I want to allow someone
ask
else.
one question too.
Sure,
about
Kristen.
what is the difference of why there's a federal charge for that one guy? I understand that there's a deportation issue or whatnot, but can you just explain what?
I don't know.
I don't know
Derek,
if
did you
you
wanna-
want to say wants to talk about it, but.
Look, what I can say at this time is the investigation's ongoing. I discussed in my opening remarks the connection to the border, and the investigation will result in an indictment. I can't speak beyond that as to an illegal immigration charge at this time. But what I can say in response to, I think, your question a moment ago, the United States Attorney's Office, in conjunction with our partners on the Homeland Security Task Force and the Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office, we are working to combat the drug epidemic in multiple ways. So on the one hand, we are taking cases that involve mid to high level suppliers in this region who are at the bag houses and working to put this poison on the street. On the other hand, we're above and below those distributors as well. We are looking at the street gangs. You can look at our press releases in the office. We are attacking those individuals who are the most violent offenders on the streets, and they are going after and distributing this poison directly to the end user. And we are working our way back to Mexico. We've indicted a series of cases in our office involving cartel members and cartel associates. And this is all happening under HSTF and U.S. Attorney David Metcalf's leadership, and we're proud of that. And so this is a critical piece of that component to support really good quality investigations conducted largely by the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office when it gets to a level where we think federal charges will result in the appropriate level of punishment.
I'm only asking for clarity about what the difference is with that guy for why he is facing a federal charge versus the other two who are not, like what the charge is, if you will, like what's the difference?
So I'll refer you to the criminal complaint. It involves a series of controlled purchases of significant quantities of fentanyl, and beyond that, I can't say anything related to the other two defendants other than the investigation's ongoing.
All right, thank you everyone for covering this. I appreciate it. Again, thank you to all of our partners for their hard work and dedication, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.